Hi, I'm Kelly Hale. If we haven't connected before, I have the joy of helping people realize all that they need to stay connected to the ease in life, to be peacefully productive, is within them. And that's actually nervous system regulation, which most people don't really realize that they have those tools within them. And so I love helping people unwrap those tools within. I like to say that I help people discover and apply nervous system regulation tools for our highly dysregulated world. Today, I want to share a story that still sticks with me after all of these years from my early clinicals as a student that really demonstrated how being in fight, flight, freeze can impact the ability to access breath or even structured breathing exercises. So part of my background is I'm an occupational therapist. That's a big foundation of what I do. And as OTs, we are trained to support mental health. Now, when I finished my OT training, I went into 3-month clinicals in different settings. But early on in my training, I had the opportunity to actually do a 1-week clinical in a mental health setting. And that was a really eye-opening experience. I worked with both outpatient and inpatient individuals going through support for their mental health healing. And I remember part of what I was expected to do with support and supervision from my clinical instructor, of course, was to share some relaxation techniques, some stress reduction techniques for these individuals in this program. And we were doing guided visualization and breathing exercises specifically. And so we invited everyone to get into this big space. We had mats and pillows and whatnot, and we invited them all to get comfortable, either seated or lying down. And I noticed a lot of people struggled with the breathing exercises, that it was hard for them. And I noticed one individual who actually was off to the side, didn't come into the group, and was very rounded forward and really didn't seem like they could get out of that position. Of course, I was a student, so I didn't know what to say or to do to encourage and invite this individual. So after I finished leading the session, I asked my CI, my clinical instructor, I said, what was happening there? How could we have engaged that person? And she pointed out that the person was probably in fight, flight, freeze, and very much in that freeze state, very rounded forward. And I said, well, what can we do? How can we help this person? How can we get them engaged? And at that time, my CI didn't have a lot of tools. She said, we just have to keep inviting them. We have to keep encouraging them. And I thought, okay, but if they're stuck in fight, flight, freeze, how are they going to be able to engage? They're really stuck there. So fast forward all these years later, and I often think about that individual, and I think about how if I had known the developmental movements, the reflex integration movements that I know now, and that do tie into my OT training, but at that point I was too green to put it together. If I had the opportunity to go back and support that person now, I would help them move through movements like the Moro reflex, because they're probably stuck in this position of the Moro, the rounded forward position. And once they would get out of that and be invited out of it gently with developmental movements, then they might be able to access some of these breathing exercises. Then they might be able to calm their system, find the parasympathetic rest and peace state of their nervous system. But when someone is that stuck in fight, flight, freeze, all the breathing exercises in the world are not going to help them. And I recently shared a video using the big ball, the big therapy ball, for moving out of the Moro, being stuck in the Moro reflex. And you can certainly do that in a standing position or a seated position. If you want to see that, just drop in the comments below that you're interested, and I'll send you a video with a seated version where you don't need a big ball in case you don't have one. But all these years later, I still think about that individual, and I sure hope they got the support they needed to get out of that freeze state. But that's a pretty dramatic example, and yet I work with a lot of people every day who don't have quite as visible or dramatic of an example of being in the freeze, of fight, flight, freeze. But they're in various stages of fight, flight, freeze. They just haven't learned how to soothe and regulate their nervous system after the saber-toothed tiger or the perceived saber-toothed tiger moves on, that stressor. And so I love having tools to help people with that, very simple, very quick tools. And you can actually learn some of those very simple, quick tools in my free gift, Inner Peace. And in the Inner Peace offering, there are 3 short videos to help you access nervous system relief for stress and anxiety. And you can get that at inspiredwell.com/inner peace. Now, I know I've been talking about breath a lot lately, and a lot of people are curious about this unique approach to breath. And so I actually have put together a workshop that's coming up, and it's called Embodied Breath. And we're using nervous system regulation to find the ease with breath in this 90-minute workshop. You can learn more about that and register for that at inspiredwell.com/embodied breath. So I'll continue talking about breath and sharing some insights about this very important, often missing piece, the nervous system regulation part of breathing. Feel free to drop your questions into the comments to respond with the questions, because very often your questions are someone else's question, and I would love to support them in a future video or post. Thanks for watching.